Am I live? Is it happening? Let's see. Oh, I am live. Okay, cool. So I am not prepared and I've moved my office around. So this is like a whole new kind of angle or whatever. But today, I have not been doing my Facebook Lives for a couple weeks. So we're going to just chat about why, what's been going on, where I'm at, how I feel, all of the things. Also have to talk about juicing because I never finished that in true Delaney fashion. But I hope everybody's having a good day so far, whether, you're just watching now or, you're going to watch it later on. It is Wednesday, the 24th. So that's where we are at. I am going to make a couple notes so I know what to talk about really quick. So, let's do any real estate agents, this freaking market is insane. I really, honestly, it's just like unlike anything that I have seen before. So let me go here. So let's start with where I've been the last couple of weeks. I don't know. I've just been in a funk. Nothing's really wrong necessarily. I've just been blah. Like I don't know. I know everybody goes through different ebbs and flows. I just feel very blah. Not super motivated, but not super lazy, super overwhelmed, but also not feel like I'm doing enough. Like just all of those feelings. So I've just and a lot of stuff has also happened. We got in a car accident a couple weeks ago. We were on ATV and a car hit us and we spun a couple times. Thank God nobody was hurt. But my husband's truck was, totaled. We couldn't drive it. We had to get a rental car, the whole thing. So that was super fun. And to add to it, it was even more fun because we had just bought that truck and had it for less than 3 weeks and hadn't even made a payment on it. And then thank God we were in that truck, right? Because it was the safest vehicle. I mean, I have a 2018 4Runner, like the off-road version. So, I mean, just thank God we were in a safe vehicle, right? Ooh. But it was just a lot. So that was, extra stress, all this stuff. Oh, hi, Dad. My dad is here. Happy birthday, Dad. Late birthday. But anyway, so that was a lot. And then just being in a funk, just a lot of stuff going on. But what we're going to talk about is a couple things. First, juicing. So I did a Facebook video where on my story or whatever, where I tried juicing. So there's this place called Clean Juice, and it's like what I can tell, it's a franchise, and you can get juice there. So like one day I was like, I've seen it in Nocatee. So on my way into work, I basically just went in and was talking to them, and they're like, oh, well, I would do this beginner juice cleanse, whatever. So I bought the juice cleanse and then I convinced my husband to do it with me, but then he backed out. So it was just me doing it. So that being said, with just me doing it, I had 2 days worth of juice. So you do 4 juices throughout the day. You can have black coffee throughout the day. You're supposed to drink a ton of water, like so much water. And then you can have a light organic dinner, whatever that meant. So I was like, okay, I'll try it and we'll see what happens. So here are the thoughts. Number 1, crazy expensive. But if it's something that you're into, I guess this is where I land. I see the benefits in it because those 2 days I had so much energy. I felt less bloated. Like I just felt better, but I'm not the best at drinking a ton of water throughout the day. So that could have been, just pumping myself full of liquids. So it's hard to say, but I did feel a lot better. However, for one day, and this is the cleanse that they have where you can have a dinner. So if you get the full, like there's no food cleanse, then it's 6 juices maybe, and there's no food. And so just the 4 juices, and it's the beginner cleanse for one day, it was $38. I'm embarrassed to say that out loud. However, I felt like freaking amazing. So the question becomes, this is where I'm leading up to. The question for me becomes, what is worth it? Because my thing is, I did it for 2 days and I weighed myself after the 2 days. I had lost 4 pounds, which I think is freaking insane in 2 days. But is that sustainable? I guess is the question. Like, if you're just drinking juice, I guess if you're in the lifestyle of it all, because I know a lot of this stuff is like the lifestyle, like yoga people or like juicing people or, you know, whatever, CrossFit people. If that's who you are and you're like committing to that lifestyle, then if you go to just eating organic and all that type of stuff, you're going to lose weight and you're going to keep weight off or whatever. But I, on the other hand, ate Chick-fil-A the next day. But I felt good about it because I got grilled chicken sandwich instead of chicken nuggets, and I got a lemonade instead of a Coke. So, you know, you work with what you got. But I think that, so I was looking at it, and I would want to price compare how much it was to make those juices yourself. I don't know the science behind it. I don't know any of that. So if you do, please let me know. Cold pressed, don't know what it means. But they were cold pressed juices. So I don't know if I could do that at my house, but it's $9, so what is it? It's like $10 a juice or $11 a juice or something. But if you buy the 4-pack, it's $38, so you get like a couple dollars off. So, but like to do that sustainably, if you were just gonna do a cleanse for a week and then you were like, I'm going completely clean eating, it could be helpful, right? Because you're kind of flushing your body and keeping it moving. But I don't see it being sustainable as like a long time thing. I do think if you were to, you know, drink a juice every day or every couple days or whatever, that could be helpful. So I did like it. I don't know if I would be ready to commit to that, but I can tell you that none of the juices were horrible. Like none of them were like, I wanted to puke. I will tell you the best one is the orange. So they have one on 210 and they have one in Nocatee, these clean juice stores. If you are ever driving by, I'm telling you, if you go, just try it for one day. Like it was fun. It was fun to do and it was fun to kind of switch things up. They say 3 days is the key. So if I was going to do it again, I would do a 3-day cleanse and I would really like prep beforehand instead of just stopping in and being sold on this clean juice thing. I would prep so that I knew from that 3rd day on that I was going to be eating healthier and things like that and that type of stuff. They do say that not to work out if you don't work out already, which I thought was interesting. And I was like, I can do that. I check that box right now. I don't already work out regularly and you're telling me that it's part of your plan that I don't have to. I love it. But so that's the juicing thing. I would love if anybody would want to, like, would anybody want to do like juice week? Like, I think that would be so fun if there was like, we just did like a week or like maybe like 5 days, like Monday through Friday, and we freaking juice and then just all talk about how it is. Like, I think that would be really fun because it was interesting. It just wasn't like life-changing. But you know what's funny is there's really no replacement. My dogs are freaking out. Yep. There's no replacement for just strictly eating healthy and working out. And the sad part is when you actually realize that, then you don't see as much of the value in these other items that are trying to aid with that. Like the juicing thing is amazing. Like I think it's great. They're all organic, whatever. But if you're just eating healthy and working out regularly, then the juice is just an added bonus. But of course you're going to see quick results if you don't do those things. Then you pump yourself full of juice in 2 days and lose 4 pounds. But if you don't keep up with it. Anyway, I'm dragging on. Okay. So other than that, let's talk about this market. Okay. It is insanity. Now, it's just a whole different landscape than I've ever been used to. So if you're a real estate agent watching this, I'd love to know your thoughts. Like, it is just so insane that I have buyers who, there's a couple things that I've never experienced before. Now, this is from a lender's perspective, but like buyers are putting in more offers than I have ever seen in my life, because a house goes on the market and it has offers because there's low inventory within minutes. Like if it's on the market for a full 48 hours or 24 hours without the listing agent of that property saying, all right, we've gotten a ton of offers, we're asking for everybody's highest and best offer by this time, because they're just getting so many, that's rare, right? So that's where, you have buyers who are writing offers way over the listing price, right? So you list a house at 350 and people are coming in and that price gets pushed up so far because there's so many offers. So it's 350, but then you're with your buyer as a real estate agent, and tell me if I'm wrong if you're a real estate agent watching this and you're like, if we go in at 350, we're not going to get this house because it's already going to get offers at 360. So then you offer 370 because you know that volume, but then you still get beat out. Or you offer I have had buyers offer $30,000-$40,000 over the listing price of a home and their offer is not chosen. And it's not because they had wonky financing. Like these are like nothing like that. Like it is a conventional 20% down loan. But then, okay, that's great. That's wonderful. But the issue that I'm having as well is when you kind of look at that from the backside is, okay, sorry, I had something blowing up on my email. Let me shut that because it's really just distracting. Okay, so now you're under contract on this house. You offered $370 on a $350,000 priced home. Now we have to get an appraisal. I have had, and tell me real estate agents watching this, if you have had this as well, because or other lenders or title, I don't care. Just tell me, is anybody else having any low appraisals? Any low appraisals, appraisal delays? Like I just want to touch on the appraisal subject for a second because I have had some appraisals where just because you can get the price for a house from a buyer doesn't necessarily mean that value is warranted for that house. Just because it's like price gouging or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? It's like if 50 people want something, the demand is so high and the supply is so low, you can raise the price and people will still buy it. But when you look at what's sold, the market is going up so quickly on the values of these homes that when appraisers are sitting down, when an appraiser does a report, they look at sold homes within the last 6 months. So when you're looking at the last 6 months of when you're looking at the last 6 months of sold properties in that community, well, something that sold 6 months ago and something that's on the market now. So let's take that scenario. You go 350, you get a contract that's 370. You go back and you look at all the houses that are similar in that area with the same number of bedrooms or whatever in that area that are being sold in the last 6 months. Well, 6 months ago, you would probably get 330 for that house. For example, I'm not a real estate agent, I'm not an appraiser. But so when the appraiser looks at what has sold in the area, unless there is just things selling left, right, and center in closing, because they have to go off of closed sales. They can't go off of pending sales. They can't go off of current listings. So just because now there's 5 houses in that neighborhood that are listed at 350 and 360 or are under contract for 370, 380 because the market's being pushed up so much, they have to go off of closed sales within the last 6 months, which if you look historically, it could be 330. So then the appraiser is saying, okay, this is going for 370, but everything that sold in the last 6 months was 330, 340. So I have to base it off what has sold, but the market's moving so fast. So then these appraisers are, in my opinion, personally, I don't think that appraisals are coming in low purposefully. I don't think anybody's trying to screw up the process, but based off of their parameters, they're probably like, I could go 362, but that's pushing it. In their mind, they're like, okay, if I really give adjustments because this one has a bigger yard and this one has updates here, and then they're coming in at 362. Now, what problem does this cause? I feel like I'm teaching a class that nobody asked to come to. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Okay, so we listed for 350, we're under contract for 370, you get an appraisal and it comes back at 362. No repairs needed, but now as the lender, I get the appraisal and I have to go to the buyer's agent and say, hey, so the appraisal came low at 362. The price on the contract is 370. So we have to figure out what we're going to do. In that scenario, I have had a lot of people ask me, what can you do? So the options are the seller drops the price to 362. The buyer pays the difference, so would pay that $8,000 difference. Or depending on the contract terms, now, they could cancel the contract if it's written that way. I mean, there's a lot of factors there, but also another point is you are seeing a lot of offers going in saying that they will escalate the value to maximum this much. So like, let's say that person, I know this is like interesting to me, but probably nobody else. Let's say that person, my desk is a weird height and I don't have a chair for it here yet. So I'm using the dining room chair, but it's a little too high. So I'm like crouching, I'm like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. So another factor that's really interesting to me personally is the offers that are being put in many times have an escalatory clause. I cannot talk, or like an appraisal contingency stuff in there. Like, for example, you go in and let's say that you go in on that same house at 365, but you put in your offer as a buyer that you will escalate your value up to 375 if they pick your offer. I might be saying that wrong. If you're a real estate agent, let me know. But like the escalatory clause or whatever is saying like, we will escalate the value up to 375. I think that's how it works. So then those are going in. So now you have these overvalue offers going with overvalue stuff put in their offers. And then you also have appraisal stuff I've seen in a ton of my contracts saying, you know, if the appraisal comes in low, the buyer will pay the difference up to X amount. So it's just so crazy to me because so these buyers are going in, it's like, it's just so backwards. Is anybody with me? I mean, sometimes I just feel like I'm watching this and I'm like, I've just never seen it before. And I feel like I need somebody to talk to about this. But so you're going in on a house that's 350, offering 370, and in that offer, you're saying that if the appraisal comes in low, the buyer will pay up to $10,000 in the difference. So what that means is if the appraisal comes in at 360, you are telling the sellers with your offer that if this appraisal comes in low, I will pay up to that $10,000 difference. For example, if that appraisal came in at 355, so there's a $15,000 difference between what the contract price is and what the value is, that buyer is saying, I'll give $10,000 and they either have to, you know, drop it the extra $5 or you know, whatever. But that's the maximum. So you're going in saying, I don't know if this will appraise, but I will pay the difference. And that's coming on top of the down payment from the buyers. So now, you know, I tell these buyers and these agents, hey, it came in low, $8,000 low. Well, then there is another option I didn't touch. The agents can provide more comps. So the agents can provide more addresses, more comps that I can send to the appraiser to essentially say, hey, here is why this house is worth 370. Please consider these items. So if we do that, then if it comes back higher, they could come back the same price. I've had it both ways. So, and then I have one right now that came in super low. Now it sounds like every one of my appraisals is coming in low. That is not the case. I want to make that very clear. It's just, overall, like if I'm doing 15, 20 deals a month, maybe 3 of them are low, which is a lot in comparison to normal times, just in case anybody was curious on that. So, so then I send that rebuttal in and the appraiser has to go through and say what they're going to do with it. So now I have one that's really super low that came in yesterday and they gave me more comps and I submitted the rebuttal to the appraiser and that appraiser has to look at it and then give us a new report or basically say, these things aren't considered. I've raised the price 4,000. So like, let's say you go through all of that and either the price doesn't adjust or it goes up to 367. You're still $3,000 low. So then you go, see delayed appraisals here and some low, but most buyers submitted a 22 AD so we can adjust the purchase price and move forward. Crazy market. We need more inventory for these families. Yes, that is correct. We need more inventory. So that's just all about the appraisal. So it's just an interesting thing because what happened beforehand is you would go in, like, I just remember the enormous demand is so great. It is artificially overinflating the home market prices. The appraisals are closer to the true value of the home. See, and that's the question. What is the value? Is the value what somebody will pay for it, or is the value what an appraiser says it's worth based on the last 6 months of sold items? But so it's such a fluid concept, right? Because if you're saying the value is what the appraiser is saying, but that's interesting because if you buy a house cash, you don't need an appraisal. So if you wanted to buy that 370 and you say, I'll give you 400 cash, the value is 400 as far as that's concerned, because there's nobody who needs to validate that value. So is the value of that house? So with something that's moving up so quick, I heard, tell me if anybody else has heard this. I have heard that builders are doing highest and best for lots. Is that a real thing? Is that a real thing? We just need to ask that question. Is that real? Because basically what would happen is we bought new construction back November of 19. We signed our contract and we went in and we basically just did like, these are the lots we have. This is what we have. And then this is the price for the house. This is the price extra for the lot that you want. It's a little bit more expensive because it's cul-de-sac, it's larger, yada, yada. Here it is. To my understanding, and let me know if anybody's watching this, I have heard people say, here is the lots and highest and best for that lot. That doesn't include, I don't think that includes the house price, right? So I don't even know how that would work. It is just interesting. So now it creates an issue. Welcome to my TED Talk. Like I said, it creates an issue on the front end and the back end. So let's say the appraisal comes in low. Now, and the seller goes, I don't want to budge. And the buyer says, I don't want to budge. Well, I have a situation where they're like, let's just order a second appraisal. That value's way off. It's worth way more, blah, blah, blah. I want a second appraisal because I don't agree with that appraiser. So in that case, we can't just say we get a second appraiser. We have to order that rebuttal. The rebuttal has to come back with no, saying that it's no increase in value. And then we can go to the appraisal panel and say, hey, we think we need a new appraiser and a new appraisal based off of this. This just doesn't reflect the market. And then they can say, okay, the head of the appraisal universe can say, okay, yes, this does a lot for a new appraisal. There's some things that were off and there is a big difference between. So there's steps to go through. And I will tell you that in my experience, the amount of second appraisals that I have had are slim. But it's just hard because it's based off of what's sold, but things are selling so much more now than they were. So like, for example, in 2015, we bought our first home. By we, I mean my husband bought his home and I was his girlfriend. Oh, I got someone call him, pause it. But the house was listed for $155, okay? We offered $150. Now, $155, I'll just tell you because I think it's so interesting. This is 2015. So this is 5 years ago from when we just sold this past house, okay? $155 was listed. We offered $145 and asked the seller to pay our closing costs of 3% of the price. So that's like, what, $4,500. So when the seller really looks at what they're making, once they give that $4,500, they're at like $141, but it was listed for $155. So they came back and said, we'll do $150, but we'll pay your $4,500. So we'll land at $145. If you don't know anything about real estate, I don't know if any of that made sense. And I don't know if I'm making sense to myself either. But so you look at that. And so we got closing costs covered. If you need closing costs covered, it is so difficult right now because you have so many buyers that are like, I'll take it overpriced. I don't need any closing costs. So it really does create a hard pigeonhole for a lot of first-time buyers that are looking for that assistance, right? Because they Because where for us, it was really helpful to have the seller cover that $4,500 of our costs, because we were putting money down, and that was really, you know, bulk of what we were expecting, all of this stuff. And then that was an added bonus. But going in now and saying, okay, well, you know, you're just gonna, there's no asking for closing costs. So now where you used to be able to work in that 3%, it isn't impossible. It's just not as customary right now, where if you're a seller and you are a listing agent and you have 10 offers in the first 24 hours, and you know that 8 of those are going to be at or above the listing price of your home, and then 6 out of 8 of those are not asking for closing costs, then what are you going to pick? You're going to pick the one that's going to make you the most money, but there's other factors. And I'd love to have a real estate agent on with me one day to talk about how to get your offer chosen. Like, I think that would be a killer video, because I am always very intrigued by that. So how is this causing an issue? So now buyers are needing more money to purchase a home because they have to account for many times those closing costs. Again, it's not 100% impossible to get them covered. I do not want to make that assumption or make that like the thing, but it is just not as common. Now, you also have to factor in, if the appraisal comes in low, what are you going to do? And that's where typically when I work with experienced agents, if they know going in, they'll pull comps on the properties they're showing their buyers. If they're going in and they say, okay, this house is listed at $350, I think if we go above $360, it's going to have a hard time appraising. If the buyer wants to offer $370, that's the conversation to have with the buyers. Correct me if I'm wrong. That to say, hey, listen, we can go $370, we can get this house, but I'm not sure it's going to appraise that high. So if it does come in low, what is our plan? You know what I mean? So that's where, so that is the issue. So let's say you have to come with all the closing costs. Now you have to basically work in, or you're working into your offer an additional X amount of dollars for a low value on an appraisal. Those are things that are more money. It's also causing an issue on the front end for buyers who are getting pre-approved, because if you're getting pre-approved for $350, then you really need to be looking at $330, because $330 is going to turn into $350, just like the $350 turned into the $370, if that makes sense. So it's causing an issue similar to what happened to us personally with our first home. We went and we got pre-approved by a lender. This is right before I literally started in the mortgage industry, in the middle of this home purchase. Again, it was just in my husband's name, so I didn't know anything about anything. But, you know, they said, hey, you're pre-approved for X amount. They didn't ask for documents. They did not give us an estimate. It was just, you're pre-approved for this. Okay, cool. We asked for a full estimate, and my husband was like, listen, we want our payment to be here. And therefore, we had to start, you know, they said, okay, well, if you want your payment to be here, you guys need to be looking at, 140 to 160 instead of 180 to 200. You guys can afford both of them. That's not a problem, but it's more just, if you want your payment here, you have to stay in this price range. Well, because that pre-approval letter came over at 200, we were looking at 180 to 200, and then we were very budget focused. So then you go to 140 to 160. This is a different ballpark in 2015. And even between those two, the type of house is very different. So now you've been looking at 180 to 200, which is more square footage, a little bit more updated, so on and so forth. And then now to be where you want to be, you're here. And that sets that expectation back for the buyer. And that is why I am so adamant about breaking down the numbers for the buyer up front, because that happened to me. I keep saying me, but my husband, we were engaged, whatever. Anyway, but like we went and looked at the house, like, oh my God, I love it so much. Let's make an offer, la, la, la. You get the thing, and then it's, you know, $250 more than we wanted per month. And my husband and I were very much, this is our max. That is what it is. It's our max. This isn't the forever home. This is the starter home. We don't know where we're at. We're in college. We don't know where we're going to be. We don't know what we're going to do. We're going to be comfortable. And if that's a smaller house, that's what it is. But I wish that somebody would have talked through that with us up front so that I looked at the correct houses up front to set the correct expectation. This all goes in and out. Suzanne just commented something, so let's take a look. The fear is you buy in this hot market at $50K above purchase price, builders catch up, more inventory becomes available. Do prices fall and leave some families with negative equity simply because they purchased in this market? With so many new home buyers entering the market, I hope not, but it's happened before. Nail on the head, girl. Nail on the head. And I still need to call you. I haven't even checked my messages. We got to do that. That being said, yes, that's the question. Is it a bubble? Is this a bubble? The difference is there's so many more regulations for homes and mortgages that I don't think it's going to be the same, but that is a very valid point. I mean, that's so valid. So you're buying a home, $50,000 above market value or purchase price, excuse me, list price. These builders cannot keep up because it takes them 8 months to build a home. And that's where it's hard. I mean, if we look at our house, we bought our house, we signed our contract in November of 2019 and it was ready in August, like 31st, so like September of 2020. So it was like it was like a 10-month build, right? Well, you lock in your lot price, you lock in your home price when you sign the contract. If you do structural options, a bay window, extend your porch, do all of that stuff, that all comes in when you are signing the contract in November. This is why these house price increases are so great, because the people who are closing in August of last year have prices from November of the year before. So now when you go to sign in August, the prices are so much higher than they were in November. And now if you were to sign now, they're higher than we were. I mean, our model is like $50,000 more base. I'm sure. I haven't looked it up, but I know it has to be astronomically higher than what it was because they have to keep up with the demand, but they don't have the same ability and they only release so many lots. But to create that hysteria, we're doing highest and best on our 10 lots, driving up the price. But then when the appraiser goes to look at it, they have to look at the last 6 months, which were based off of ones that signed in November, not even 6 months ago. Those prices are based off of a year ago. So how are you justifying the value? This is where my questions are coming in. And I want to know what you guys are seeing because it's just fascinating to me. Now, going back to what I said really quickly, and then I'm like, I don't even want you guys to look at my email. It's so bad. 87 unread emails since I sat down. It's okay, we can do it. So this is what I'm saying. Now you have buyers who are looking at and getting pre-approved for, and they're saying to me, this is the difference. I'm having that issue that I had when I bought in 2015, but it's not because the loan officer wasn't transparent with me. So for example, I have a buyer and they say, okay, so Ernie, my Faja, said the market always establishes the value or price, supply and demand. The appraisal is generally fixed regardless of the market fluctuations. They are struggling to justify high prices. The housing market is like the stock market, constantly changing. We are in a bubble. So yeah, that, I mean, completely. It's just, that's where if you look at, I'll talk about a couple more things, but if you look at when I go and I pull a tax bill on a property, people don't understand that the tax bill is locked in on the value that that owner paid. So for example, quick example, we bought our house for $155. That's what we landed on. So they were like, we'll do $155, we'll pay your stuff, blah, blah, blah. So we did $155 and the seller replumbed the entire house. There was a new roof, new AC, new all of this stuff in 2015. And that was like the market was just starting to come back up for us. But when that buyer who was the previous owner of the house that we bought it as a short sale in 2011 at the bottom of the market for $90,000. When you buy a house, and this is something that I should do a whole video on because I don't feel like it's explained enough, and it is a game changer. And it really upsets me that it's not. But when you buy a house and you put your homestead exemption on that property, meaning it's your primary residence, the taxes are locked in. Essentially, they can fluctuate like less than 1%, so it's very small, but the taxes are locked in on the value in which you paid for that home. So when we go to look at a house that tax bill was based on 90,000, so those taxes are much lower, right? We go to buy a house, lenders are required to use the current tax bill. The issue is the difference in value. So we are closing in 2015 on property taxes based off of a home valued at 90,000 from what the previous owner purchased. So we have to legally do that. We can't just make up taxes. We have to go with what's on there. The issue is a lot of lenders do not talk to the buyers about an increase in the property taxes based off of the difference in value. Now, when homes weren't that big of a difference, it wasn't as big of a difference, right? If you bought a house for $220 and it sold a couple years later for $240, that's not going to be a huge difference. However, right now it is a huge difference. And that's where we're having an issue with making sure the buyers understand. And I always hand calculate the taxes based off what they are offering and what the pre-approval price is now, not off of the tax bill. And I explain that to the buyer to say, hey, Mr. Smith, I just want to let you know that on this estimate, I did hand calculate your taxes for Duval County based off of the price that you're looking at for this home. We do have to use, and I have an email signature, we do have to use the previous, the current owner's tax bill, but that's based off of the price they bought it for back in 2010. So just so you're aware, you will close on that previous tax bill, but within the first year, it will adjust. And so many people don't get told that, and then their payment goes up $400 because of this difference. I'll give you a quick example. So I got my calculator on the other screen. Okay, so let's say that, I literally just had one, that was astronomical. This house was $580, purchase price is what it's under contract for, but the current tax bill was based off of $270 because they bought it way long ago and the market's just different. So like if that's in, okay, so if there was no CDD fee or anything, the taxes that we would have to use for the new buyer would be $34.91 a year. Okay, now it's being sold for $580. So when I do an estimate, I hand calculate this because that's freaking, you guys will see. It might not be a big difference for some people. That's, okay, if you were to use, the tax bill you have to use to close on the home would be $3,491. That's based off of a value of $270. That's what the person paid for it back in 1997. But now it's been renovated. It's all that. They homesteaded the property. They've been locked in at $3,500 for the last 20 years. That changes every time the ownership changes. So they're going to go from a $3,500 tax bill to a house that's sold at $580 to an $8,500 tax bill. Now, the difference in that, let's look, $3,491 divided by 12 is $290 a month. And $8,511 is $709 a month. So you are literally a $419 a month difference based off of property taxes. And if your loan officer does not break that down to you up front, that is a disservice. Like legitimately, because if you're already at the top of your budget at $550 and you're under contract on $580 and you're like, oh God, I really love this house and I know it's above market, but our payment's going to be a little bit more than I want. And but I think we can definitely do it. It's just not really comfortable. And then the next year, $400 gets added to your payment because nobody told you your taxes would change. And now you're way above what you wanted. That's a problem. And the reason why this is an extreme problem right now is because of the difference in values, right? So just making sure that you know that. So this goes back to the initial buyer that's getting pre-approved that I pre-approved for $350. They're looking at $350. I'm sending them the estimates on the houses they like at 350. They say, hey, I think we want to offer 370. Can you give me an estimate at 370? I'm hand calculating the taxes. This is what it would be. They're like, whoa, that is way too much. We really need to stay at 350. But if you go in looking at homes at 350 or 50 and you offer 350, you're not going to get the house because of the market. So then you go to look at houses that are 330 and you're offering 350, but you've seen houses that are 350. So now it's a different, slightly different house. So then you go 330 and then you offer 350, you get the house and you're at the payment that you want, but that house is 330, but you're paying 350, but does the appraisal come in lower? Does it come in? Like, these are the questions that I'm curious about because it's just a landscape I haven't been in. And if it's not evident that I love like this industry and what I do and how the workings are behind it, I mean, I do. I just want to know, like, no BS from other real estate agents. Is this just me? I'm assuming it's not because I've had some people obviously, here comment and say no, but what do you guys think is going to happen? That's the question, because I know both of you have commented on that. What is going to happen? Is it going to be that they can't keep up and the values fall again? Is it going to be that, I mean, I have seen so many posts from real estate agents saying, we don't have any supply. If you want to sell your house, then contact me. Because they need more houses for these buyers to look at. I mean, we sold our house in November of 2020. We moved in September and we didn't sell it, like put it on the market until Thanksgiving week. It was just, there was too many other things going on. So we literally held on to our old house for like 3 months, just chilling. And it was insanity. We had like 28 showings in 48 hours. 15 offers. Like, it was just insanity. My real estate agent said that there was a line of cars down our street and the showing times was 15-minute increments. Like, that is how crazy it was in November. We got way more than I thought we could even list it for, and we got higher than that on what offer we went with. The appraisal was fine, but I'm sitting back and going, I love this as a seller. I really do. And I'm so happy that this family, I loved the family that was whatever. But I was like, how can the same exact house, we've done updates to it. It was 155 and we did some stuff to it, like 100% new floors, paint, removed popcorn ceilings, painted the cabinets, redid the bathrooms. But I'm just confused because for me, it wasn't worth what. But I also bought it at a lower price. So I guess the thing is, I guess it's all relative, because if you were looking in 2011 and that house was $95,000, then if it sold for 155, you're probably like, holy moly, how did this sell for that much? It was just this much 4 years ago. But what are we going to be saying in 4 years is my question. So, not getting on my soapbox. This is more just all the questions I have that I'm not necessarily able to answer. Just talking about my thoughts, doing my thing. I'm going to go to my avalanche of emails. I hope everybody has a great day. I have a lot of really awesome topics, but I want to know what you guys want to see so that I can make sure that I am doing those things. Like things like this, just open talks. What do you want? And I will make it happen. So I hope everybody has a great Wednesday. Thank you so much for stopping in. If you did, I'm going to try to commit to doing these. I just need some more ideas. So share your thoughts below. I'll talk to you later and have a great Wednesday. Bye guys.